Okay, we are going to breed the orphan. We are going back into straight service of God in man and how to do it. This is Swami Akhandananda starting the orphanage, which was, even though he had so many actually successful relief work, this was his first actual building, continual institution that he started. So we are at the orphanage on chapter 12. It was the month of July, 1897, and relief work at Mahula was being carried out with full vigor. One day at noon, on his way back from the house of a cholera patient, Swami Akhandananda saw a little girl of 5 or 6 at the door of a house chewing uncooked rice grains. She was no stranger, for she went every day with other people to the relief center for her own ration of rice. But this day she was alone and seemed unable to find her way home. Swami Akhandananda took the child to Mahula, where she was given a bath and some food. She remained there for the night, and when her people came the next day for the ration, she went away with them. Swami Akhandananda learned that she was an orphan of an Aboriginal tribe. This orphaned girl stayed only one night at the center, and it gave the Swami cause to think deeply about how such helpless children could be protected and given education. He saw the need for an orphanage and wrote to Swamiji about it. Although during the early stages of relief work, these dedicated workers had been eating their meals at the houses of various people, to continue in this way for any length of time was not desirable. If someone should join them and take up the work of the kitchen, they might be able to provide for themselves. One day, when Swami Akhandananda was thinking about this, he heard a Hindustani voice outside, and the idea came to him that perhaps God had heard his prayer. The stranger came in, a tired and hungry youth, having nothing with him but a blanket. At the very first sight of him, Swami Akhandananda felt that the man he wanted had come. Having rested a little while, the young man introduced himself as Dinanath Chobri of Ghazipur. He was on the way to Puri from Kamakhya in Assam, and hearing that foodstuffs were given freely at this place, he had knocked at the door. After dinner, he was asked to stay, and he complied readily. In a short time, in the company of the Swami, he began to imbibe the ideal of selfless service. He was soon cooking for all, as well as doing the chores at the center with devotion. Dinanath had a noble heart. He frequently gave up his own dish to some hungry man. In admiration of his large-heartedness and devoted service, Swami Akhandananda wrote of him later, "A benevolent, selfless, and saintly man, though unlettered, can by strength of character alone do much good to the world." In the latter part of July, when came Swamiji's reply to the proposal of an orphanage in from Elmora. "The contents of your letter gave me great joy. Your idea of starting an orphanage is very good. Try your best to have a permanent institution. Don't worry about money. Have faith that all power is in you. It will not fail to express itself. Write letters full of enthusiasm to the Math at times, so that they too may be inspired to work. Victory to the Guru." Nitya Gopal Babu, secretary of the District Famine Relief Society, had westernized ideas, and he looked upon Indian sadhus with indifference. However, As he came into closer contact with Swami Akhandananda and saw his spirit of renunciation and untiring service, his views underwent a great change. Once, when Swami Akhandananda met him on some matter concerning relief, the Swami spoke of his idea of establishing an orphanage. Nitya Gopal Babu not only congratulated him on the idea, but encouraged the scheme wholeheartedly. Since the days when Swami Akhandananda had first dedicated himself to the service of humanity, a dream had haunted his mind. Somewhere in India, he would think, I shall start a model school where a group of boys under direct supervision will be given simplified courses of training in agriculture and industry so as to enable them to become self-sufficient. In spare hours, they will learn the Vedas and other scriptures, as well as academic subjects such as history, geography, and science. They will be taught in such a way that they will be able to teach others. He thought the time had come for this dream to materialize. A few days later, Swami Akhandananda saw a small boy of the lowest caste in the street of Berhampur, looking quite forlorn. The boy was just recovering from an attack of smallpox, and there were still sores on his body. The Swami showed the boy to Nitya Gopal Babu before taking him to Mahula. At one end of the spacious courtyard of the relief center at Mahula was the Chandi Mandap, or festival hall, made of brick. At the other end was a hut, in which the orphanage would soon have its humble beginning with its new arrival. Swami Akhandananda, Brahmachari Surin, Dinanath Chobi, Swami Sachidananda, a disciple of Swamiji, and the young boy made up the total number of inmates at the ashram. With Swami Akhandananda's care and nursing, the boy's health soon improved. He became so attached to the Swami that he went everywhere with him, holding on to his cloth. Recalling this incident, the Swami wrote, "A little care brought to his face such a happy smile that I can never forget it for the rest of my life." It became known that the child had an uncle and a sister living in a nearby village. They had left him in the streets, uncared for, even when he had smallpox. But a few days later, the boy's uncle came and forcibly took him away. Though at first unwilling to take him back, the man was obliged to do so for fear of being outcasted by his community. The boy trembled at the sight of his uncle and cried piteously as he was carried away, causing no small pain to Swami Akhandananda. At this time, Swami Akhandananda's state of mind was such that whenever he saw a dirty, ill-fed, and ill-clad boy in the street, he would take him to the ashram and with all affection remove the dust and dirt from his body, rub him down with oil, bathe him in warm water and soap, and while doing so, recite with deep feeling the Purusha Shukta, as is done when bathing the deity Narayana, that God with thousands of heads, eyes, and feet who covers the whole universe. These remarkable scenes of service took place in the newly founded ashram, hidden away in a village of the Murshidabad district. Swami Sachidananda was so charmed by the extraordinary sight that he wrote an article about it, which was published in the Brahmavadan. The cook, Dinanath Chobi, was an orthodox Hindustani Brahmin, and though always willing to serve, he had qualms at times regarding certain acts which to him seemed unclean and defiling. When Swami Akhandananda treated the low-caste boy affectionately, tending his sores, Chobi would look on from a distance and say, "What are you doing, Swamiji? Surely it does not become you to do all this. Needless to say, the exemplary mode of service expressive of the highest idealism could not fail to impress both the learned Satchidananda and the illiterate Jobi. They both began to take an active part, eschewing discrimination of caste and creed, in nursing and caring for the helpless, ailing children that were brought to the ashram. Word came from Sudhanshu Bagchi, the silk merchant from Burhampur, that at Krishnanagar, the Christian fathers were converting a number of abandoned Hindu boys to Christianity. Therefore, Sudhanshu Babu requested Swami Akhandananda to organize the orphanage speedily on a sound footing. Exactly at this time, information came about 2 needy orphan boys. Since the time of the famine, a Vaishnava woman had been maintaining them on alms she begged. Malaria had now brought the boys to death's door. Sri Bagchi had asked to bring them to the ashram, but the woman would not turn them over to anyone except Dandi Thakur. So Dandi Thakur appeared in person at her door. However, only the younger boy was willing to leave. On August 31st, 1897, Swami Akhandananda reached Mahula with his first orphan, Bihari Das, who was 9 or 10 years of age. Sometime later, through the efforts of a police inspector, the other boy, a year older, was admitted. Both brothers had been ailing for a long time. Proper treatment, diet, and nursing soon restored them to normal health. The orphanage had now opened, and Nitya Gopal Babu was asked to convey the news to Mr. Lavinge, the magistrate. Later one day, while talking with the magistrate on matters concerning famine relief, Swami Akhandananda was asked what he intended to do after the relief week was completed. The Swami replied, "I have a plan to keep the orphanage operating." Laudable idea indeed, the magistrate exclaimed, and when he learned that it would be open to all orphan boys, irrespective of caste or creed, he was very pleased. Now he asked Swami Akhandananda if he would take charge of a Muslim girl also. Very reluctantly, the Swami had to refuse the proposal, explaining that this was a task for educated and kind-hearted women, not for sadhus. The magistrate said nothing further, but Swami Akhandananda felt deeply pained for having made the refusal. He expressed his feelings in an article he wrote afterwards, of which these few lines show how difficult the refusal had been. The idea of starting an orphanage first arose because of a helpless girl. But with the opening of the orphanage, we did not hesitate to refuse one of her kind when the offer came. So weak we are, your unworthy sons, O mother. We lack the capacity to serve you. All we can do is pray. Mother, it is your work, and you alone can get it done. You are the supreme teacher of mankind. You bring about your own reforms, and you also provide the means. The district magistrate was very appreciative and sympathetic towards the orphanage and promised to render all the help he could. On the very next day, he ordered the police superintendent, Mr. Graham, to inform all police officers in the district to send orphan boys of whatever caste or creed they might be to Swami Akhandananda. This directive continued to be in force for a long time. Mr. Lavinge also tried to have the orphanage established on a permanent site. One day in October, he and the police superintendent went to Mahula to meet Swami Akhandananda, intending to secure a few acres of land from the local zemindars. A site was selected on the highway at the village of Sargachi. The village lies in a beautiful part of the countryside, 6 miles to the south of Berhampur, and by the spacious Krishnanagar Road. But Mr. Lavinge asked curiously, "Why do you make your ashram so far from the town, in a village where there are many inconveniences?" "Because," replied Swami Akhandananda, "we can be nearer the toiling peasants and alleviate their distress to whatever small extent it is possible. They too can benefit by observing our method of work." Swami Akhandananda's sacred aim in life was to serve not only orphans, but also the poor and the illiterate. Swamiji had written to him, "May the poor, the ignorant be your gods." While walking along a village path and seeing the cultivators wearing their sun hats as they plowed, he would go into the field, put on one of their hats, and with tears in his eyes pray for their well-being. A passerby would stand still in astonishment at the sight, but how else could he express the sorrow he felt in their distress and his wish to help them? Also, it was the Swami's firm belief that work in a prosperous town would benefit some educated people, but not the people in general. It would be better for both the people and the country if instead more persons left the crowded towns and went to the villages to work among the people. If the prosperity of a country depended on holding meetings in cities, then 80 or 90% of the Indian people would not be suffering. These were the reasons that prompted Swami Akhandananda to choose a village some distance away from the town of his orphanage, for his orphanage. Just when he had sent a letter to the landlord of Mahula asking for a grant of land for the orphanage, Mr. Lavinge was unfortunately transferred to Calcutta. The Swami was very sorry to lose such a helpful and sympathetic friend. One day, Mr. Lavinge brought his successor to the ashram to introduce him to Swami Akhandananda, with the thought that he might be of assistance to the Swami. Mr. Lavinge asked for an estimate of the cost of maintaining and educating 10 orphan boys. An estimate of only 80 rupees a month was drawn up. On seeing it, the magistrate advanced 100 rupees and advised opening a fund. The Maharaj of Kazimbazar, aware of Mr. Lavinge's interest, was willing to become the treasurer or president of the orphanage. Swami Akhandananda, however, instead of waiting for large lump sum grants from the government or from the Rajas, thought it more prudent to make slow but steady progress with charity that came unsolicited. The Swami wrote to friends to send boys to the orphanage, and also went himself in search of them. In one village, he was mistaken for one recruiting boys for labor on Mauritius Island, and he was physically, accosted by some men who intended to harm him. Fortunately, a Brahmin pundit who was known to him came suddenly upon the scene and saved him. In the latter part of December 1897, Swami Akhandananda went to Panchchagoan in the Kandi subdivision. From the Mission Relief Center at Panchchagoan, rice was still being distributed to the people of Navagram. This was not necessary now, as the new rice crop was ready for harvest. The zemindar of Panchchagoan, at whose house he was staying, in appreciation of his services, invited him to visit his zemindari, and there's a footnote. Extensive land properties of a zemindar. It invited him to visit the Zamindari the next year to collect funds for the orphanage at Mahula, which at this period consisted of 3 boys living in a hut. Almost 6 months had passed since Dinanath had first come to the center. He was now seriously thinking of taking the vows of renunciation. When Swami Akhandananda, the Brahmachari Suran, returned from Panchgoan, Dinanath disclosed his mind to them, and on an auspicious day, Swami Akhandananda initiated him formally into the life of a brahmacharan. With the birth anniversary of Sri Ramakrishna drawing near, Swamiji wrote to Swami Akhandananda, requesting him to come to the Mat for the holy festival. The Mat was now at Belur, in Nilambar Mukherjee's garden on the west bank of the Ganga. That's where it still is. And when you go there, you can visit Nilambar Babu's house and see where Holy Mother performed the Panchatapas, and she stayed when she came to Belur. Before the Swami left for the Mat, the landlord of Burhampur, Ban Bihari Sen, gave him 2 giant-sized sweets made of cheese to be taken as offerings to the master. Together, they weighed 110 pounds. Now, if any of you have ever seen a rasgulla, that's a sweet made of cheese. They're about the size of a golf ball, and they do not weigh, 2 of them do not weigh 110 pounds. Now, these things must have been planet-sized. Leaving Dinanath to look after the little establishment at Mahula, the Swami and Brahmachari Suran traveled to Belur, arriving there early in the afternoon on the day of the anniversary festival. Everybody at the Mat hastened to look at the huge sweets brought by the Swami. And after Swamiji had seen them, they were taken to the shrine. When Swami Akhandananda went into the shrine, Swamiji said to Sarat Chakravarti, the disciple who was with him, "See what a heroic soul is here. Fear and death are unknown to him. He works with single-minded devotion for the good of the many and the happiness of the many." This was the first meeting of Swamiji and Akhandananda since the famine relief work had begun. Full of affection for his brother, Swamiji embraced and blessed him and said, "Look, on my return to Alam Bazar Mat from Darjeeling, when Babaram handed me your letters, I saw the master holding you by the hand at Mahula village. That is why you were so successful." The present site of the Belur Mat had just then been purchased, and Swamiji would take his walk on these grounds almost every day. Swami Vivekananda was engaged in drawing up the plans for the future monastery and temple. Swami Akhandananda was staying in the same room with him, and the two would often discuss these plans together. After almost a year of strenuous work, Swami Akhandananda fell ill soon after his arrival at the Mat, and he was not able to attend the annual public festival of Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, which was held that year on the grounds of a temple nearby. But he was soon well again, and one day, Swamiji took him to the newly purchased land. As he stood on the bank of the Ganga near the southern boundary of the land, Swamiji said, "Look, Ganges, the river frontage here exceeds that of the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. What do you say?" Akhandananda nodded, and Swamiji continued, "The proprietors of the Kali temple did not allow us to hold the anniversary in the temple precincts this year. I think what the Master has done is, in a way, for our own good. That is, by acquiring the new plot of land at Belur for the monastery." Coming to the center of the land, Swami Akhandananda raised the topic of the future plan of the monastery. When they stood on the present site of the temple, Swamiji indicated where the Mat and temple would someday be located. He described the interior of the temple and said that images of gods and goddesses and saints would stand in spacious niches, while on the altar of Sri Ramakrishna there would be at the center a resplendent Om set with diamonds and emeralds. At the mention of diamonds and emeralds and rubies, Swami Akhandananda asked, would it be proper to have such a display of wealth in a poor country like this, and in a mott of sannyasins? Later, Swami Akhandananda wrote of Swamiji's reply, which, though not answering his question directly, gave a prophetic preview of what would be coming in the New Age. All of this I still remember, his saying in particular. This Renaissance will have a specialty of its own. In the past, with the rising of every race in every country on earth, there came along an unfoldment of artistic talent. Just so in this age, with the advancement of education, there will undoubtedly be a greater manifestation of civilization in all spheres. Continuing their discussion of the future, Swamiji pointed out to Akhandananda that there would be separate rooms for the sannyasins and the brahmacharins in the years to come. Thus talking, they returned to the monastery. Now, that is not exactly how the temple in Bellarmont looks. My memory is it's a very large, open, mostly white marble space with a large statue of Sri Ramakrishna, and I don't remember too many gods and goddesses around the edges. Do you, Amrita?
I don't.
No. They have a separate temple for Brahmananda right on the bank of the Ganga, a center temple for Holy Mother right on the bank of the Ganga, and one for Swamiji, and they kind of face the Ganga. Maharaja's faces the Mott, Mother's faces the Ganga. Swamiji's, which way does it face?
Face the Mott. Well,
It-
it's not exactly. It's
Yeah.
one of the manas, the
Yeah.
praying on the.
It doesn't face the Ganga. Mother faces the Ganga. But it's very beautiful. And you've all seen the pictures of Bellarmont. And it looks just like that. Although now they've filled a lot of the grounds with a lot more buildings.
And also a lot more.
But are there diamonds and emeralds?
I'm sorry?
Did he did he put the diamonds and emeralds?
Absolutely not. There's no diamonds
Good.
and emeralds and rubies.
Good.
There are a lot more gardens.
I'm sorry?
You know, a lot more gardens.
Yeah.
And flower arrangements, quite elaborate in certain places.
Yeah, they have been expanding. They have a college there now. They have a technology, a kind of an old Swami's home, a Sardapit, where they take care of books and Sardapit has their bookstore. They have
Well, they have other activities.
Other
Village work.
village work. They encourage the villagers to give them an opportunity to, first of all, show them what to make and provide an outlet, a sales outlet for what they do make, village progression. And then they have
The training center.
training center for the young monks, the monastery for the monks who already have sannyas and are living at Bellarmont, the acharyas and everything for the training center. They have and now they have a huge new, which I have not seen, a huge new dining room to feed all the visitors that come.
Also a convention center.
They also have a separate convention center, and a building for visitors to rest in during the afternoon when they close Bellarmont from all visitors. They close it up. And
Also the museum there.
And they have a museum. I forgot that. They also have tour buses that arrive on Sundays.
And two guest house.
Yeah.
Two guest house.
They have, if you ever decide to visit, they have a Western guest house and a Indian National guest house. So, but you have to make arrangements through whichever Swami you're, affiliated with. They'll write letters for you. Any other questions? So that was the first institution of service that I believe was started in the whole of the Ramakrishna order, was Swami Akhandananda's orphanage. Okay, now Saturday will be Swami Sarvadevananda's Gita class at 5 o'clock, and he will be giving the talk on Sunday, and his topic is Holy Mother in the Eyes of Swami Sardananda and Turiyananda. And today is Swami Turiyananda's birthday, so when you saw the shrine in the beginning, that was Swami Turiyananda on the side. Okay, I think those are all of our announcements for right now. And I hope we'll see you. Not yet.
Next Friday.
Oh.
It's next Thursday, I think. Friday.
They just reminded me, but I don't have a thing. Swamiji's puja will be next Friday up here in Santa Barbara. In Hollywood, it will be on Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah, Hollywood, it will be on Sunday. But it will be Friday here, which is February 2nd. Okay. I don't have a little cheat sheet, which they give me these things so I can make the announcements with a coherent. Yeah, so Swamiji's puja, everyone's welcome to come. It starts at 11 and followed by homa fire and then prasad. Okay, we'll end with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.